and welcome to Facts or Frauds.
Mr. Martin, any witnesses?
Well, I did want to bring a witness, and that besides the hearing officer issue, I already ruled on that.
Sir, the hearing officer from the city of Livonia who denied your license one time ago has no relevance to this case.
I don't want to explain why, but
It doesn't. It doesn't have any relevance to this case, and I can't bring in anything that's not relevant. Any further discussion is going to try to possibly make a mistrial and hold you in contempt of court. So say another word about it.
Your Honor, after advising Mr. Martin of his Sixth Amendment rights, which I think he's now fully aware of, his knowing and voluntary decision that he would like to take the stand on his own behalf. At this time, Mr. Martin will be calling Mr. Martin to the stand, and I will be asking a couple questions.
Okay, so just for the record, I'm not going to allow Mr. Martin to just testify in some sort of narrative form. He's going to be asked questions by you. Is that how it is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Mr. Martin, you understand that you are subject to any cross-examination by the prosecution if you take the stand. You understand that?
no, comprehend that.
All righty. And sir, you understand knowingly and voluntarily that you are choosing to take the stand, knowing that you have the right to remain silent, not have that silence used against you. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay. And counsel, as a co-counsel here, has explained all of that to you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. And Mr. Martin, you may take the stand, sir. I find that you're knowingly and voluntarily doing so.
Thanks, sir.
Would it be easier if they just stayed in the table?
Madam Recorder, I'll stay put at the podium this time for us.
Mr. Martin, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You may be seated, sir. Please use a nice outside voice close to the microphone so that we can make sure that we make a good record that everybody can hear. All right?
All right.
Please state your full name for the record.
Capital E, lowercase R-I-C, of the capital M, lowercase A-R-T-I-N family. Living private man, known as sovcit, as the U.S. Supreme Court recognizes, not a corporation, legal fiction entity. It's being fraudulently acted on as if I am.
Where were you on July 11th of 2023 at approximately 4 p.m.?
Riding my traveling by right on my moped, about to cross the street of North Line, and I do not remember. Well, give my title. I might just stick strictly with your question. Elaborate more, or just.
Let me prompt you to say, can you tell me a little further about what happened that day?
I was traveling by right on my moped. I wasn't carrying passengers of property for hire at the time. So therefore it meets the definition of travel by right. I do not remember stopping at getting off and impeding traffic. I do not remember myself doing that.
Mr. Martin, what do you recall the condition of your rear tire being that day?
My tire did go flat on me when I remember it when I crossed North Line Street. A short distance, the tire had just went flat, and I stopped the moped. It went flat. That's it. And this one, and it was a short distance. I'm thinking roughly 50 feet, maybe 100 feet. It wasn't long, but it's like any flat tire, I stopped so I don't damage my rim. But so I stopped, and but also during this is when Anthony Borg.
I'm going to ask you another follow-up question. So, why don't you tell us when you first recall seeing the officer?
Once I crossed the North Line, it was just a little bit past that. Anthony Borg was there. There's another one of his partners, and he called me over. He said, "Hey, come here." So when he said that, I figured I'm going to threaten to arrest to stop, because if I don't, he may try to arrest me or write some ticket like obstruction of justice or something. So under threat of arrest, not willingly, contractually, I stopped against my consent. And this is when the rest followed. As he said, he arrested me and He forced my identification from me, which again, I did not willingly do. I figured if I didn't give him my ID, it's going to be, a charge of obstructions. I've been seeing YouTube videos, people get charged by cops sometimes is they don't give their ID. They don't self-incriminate yourself, basically. They get charged with obstruction of justice. So under that threat of arrest, I gave him my ID home.
Mr. Martin, or let me ask a better question. Would you like to describe any of the characteristics of the device that you were on that day? You asked some questions previously about the vehicle. Is there anything that you think is relevant for us to know about this vehicle?
Well, the burden of proof is on the prosecutor. So I'm being silent on that. Burden's on them.
Understood, Mr. Martin. Factually, is there anything that you would like the jury to know about the vehicle or the moped? It's your opportunity to sort of explain any of the facts that you...
No, except for I was traveling by right, regardless of what it is. It's not important, as I was shown by the law, whether it had an electric motor or a gasoline motor, whether it was called, I don't think I'm going to prove in my argument how it was irrelevant anyways. Like I said, the burden of proof is on the prosecutor, not me, so I remain silent on that issue.
Your Honor, as this is a little bit unusual way to have a direct examination, I would like to ask an open-ended question. I understand that we can't just go for a full narrative, but Mr. Martin.
And I object to that extra question too, because it would be self-incriminating, even if, hypothetically, if it wasn't.
Understood.
Right.
Okay, then that's why we're giving you an opportunity to clear that up right now. This is your chance, Mr. Martin. I don't have any more direct questions for you right now. Was there anything else that you would like to tell the jury at this time, factually, about what happened on July 11th of 2023 at approximately 4 p.m. thereafter, immediately after?
Well, yeah, also Anthony Borg had no legit reason for pulling me over. He seen me, he pulled me over. He was going, as his testimony said himself, he just noticed me from prior experience. Now, that is not a justified reason to pull me over. To just go by and say, okay, in fact, let's say a year or two ago, I didn't have a driver's license. That doesn't mean I don't have one now, so you can't just go pulling people over because you think, because a year or two ago, the guy didn't have a license, so let's just pull him over again, let's just see. So this is why it's harassment to me, factual-wise, it supports that, and in my mind, that's what it is. And it's retaliation for my complaints. Yeah.
Mr. Martin, before I ask opposing counsel if he has any questions for you, is there anything else you would like to tell us?
Nothing else right now.
Understood. I will have a chance when Mr. Greco's done to stand back up and do what's called redirect. So I will pass the witness at this time.
And that redirect will be only under the scope of cross-examination.
I'm sorry, and thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Mr. Greco, cross-examination.
Mr. Martin, on the afternoon of July 11, 2023, as you've testified, you were driving your moped on North Line Road near a Heritage car, correct?
No, not correct.
You didn't just testify about that?
Yeah, I didn't say I was driving. Did I use those words? No.
Were you traveling on your moped?
Traveling by road.
No, hang on a second. Were you traveling on your moped on July 11th around 4 o'clock on North Line Road?
Don't dispute that. Traveling by road.
Okay, thank you.
The same as driving.
Okay. When you were on the moped, right? This is not a Flintstones thing. You were like moving your feet. No, you just said it was a moped during your direct exam.
No.
It has a motor,
I
correct?
did not say that. No, I did not say that. I
You
said
keep
if
referring.
I'm going to clarify, in case you misheard me. I said, regardless whether it is or not, I remain silent on that issue because it's for the prosecutor's burden to prove. I don't have, sit
After you
and tell
indicated it was a
motorcycle,
moped.
moped,
It's okay.
bike.
And you were in the city of Taylor, correct?
Well, what's your definition of in the city of Taylor? Does that mean
Okay.
subject to the corporation?
You can answer my question. Do you know if you were in the city of Taylor that day?
Yes, I was.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I just want to understand that does not.
No, it's okay. I just answered so you would understand it. Okay, so that's clear. We're good. Okay, and you just testified that you admit that at or around the time that Officer Borg pulled you over, that your tire was in fact flat, right?
It just went flat, yes.
Okay, regardless of whether it's on his body cam, it was in fact flat, right? So we can establish that?
Yes.
Okay. And you admit that you didn't have a valid driver's license that day, correct?
Yeah, I admit that, I didn't have a driver's license.
Okay, that's fine. You acknowledge that state law requires you to have a driver's license. You just disagree that it should be applicable to you, correct?
No, it's not correct. As my opening statement says, I do not, no, the state law does not mandate me as a human, as I will show with my legal arguments, to have a driver's license.
No.
And you're traveling by right, which is a difference by the law.
I understand. Listen to my question again. You acknowledge that the state law says that it requires to operate a motor vehicle on the road, you need a driver's license,
It's a fraud. No, it requires, it says, the specific statute uses the word person, and as I will demonstrate, the U.S. Supreme Court said persons are defined as, it's distinguished from a sovereign, one of the sovereign people. There's a difference. So it's really a corporation, it's all a fraud. What's really being charged is a corporation, all capital letters, names, which is not me as a human.
Your testimony that you're not a person?
Is that I am a sovereign, one of the sovereign people, as the U.S. Supreme Court said.
And
People are sovereign.
right, and your testimony is that because you're not a person, that you are not required under the laws of the state of Michigan to have a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle, correct?
Right.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Any redirect
Questions?
under the small scope of the direct, cross-examination?
After pulling over to inspect whatever condition your rear tire was in, you were able to still drive it off? Or were you able to still drive it off?
It went down flat, but, it went flat. And I can't remember if it went all the way flat. Actually, I think it has had a little bit more on there, but I won't feel safe sitting on it, but I could have walked away with it. And in contrast to the testimony that the police officer said, for example, it was abandoned. That was a lie. So that's something else I want to mention too. I did not abandon my vehicle. No time. It was private property. I did not abandon it. I could have walked away with it from the scene without traveling by right on it, or they want to call it driving. I didn't have to do none of that. So that's another reason why they didn't have to tow it. And regardless of the flat tire issue, I could have walked away with it anyways.
Mr. Martin, based on the questions that the prosecutor just asked you, I'm going to ask you an open-ended question because you're representing yourself today and I'm assisting you with the representation. Is there anything that you would like to state to the jury in response to the questions that Mr. Greco just asked, limited to that, nothing new, but limited to that area, as the judge is instructed?
Yeah, I want to say to the jury as to what the prosecutor said.
Correct. It's an open-ended question to you to, again, as you're representing yourself in this, anything else that you'd like to state on this matter? Done.
Besides what I get to say in the argument, I can't. Well, actually, I do have some questions for the prosecutor. I need to get. I haven't written down.
No.
I don't know if these would be considered within the realm of direct examination. Do I have questions for the prosecutor? This has to do with a legal argument. Another one to dismiss this case, which has to do with your standing, Greco. Now, for example, one of them is.
Mr. Martin, I've already made a ruling on your motion to dismiss based on lack of standing, and I explained to you
This is totally
that
different.
I have jurisdiction and that the prosecution and the city of Taylor have standing.
This is a different argument based on standing. It's different.
Different argument based on standing.
No, but it's different.
Well, first off, if you're gonna make any sort of testimony while you're sitting there as a witness, it's gonna be about facts. If you have any legal argument that you wanna make, you can do that after your closing argument. After the prosecution closes their argument, you can ask that the jury be excused. You can make any motion that you want to at that time. I'll make that ruling, and then we can go back on the record with the jury. But sitting in the witness chair is not the time when you make a motion, when you're not going to be asking questions of the prosecutor, because he's not one of the people who you get to call as a witness.
The questions I have to ask them though are relevant to a defense I have to raise. Some people don't have to raise it now.
Like I said, we'll do that outside of the presence of the jury, because I'm not gonna have the jury tainted by any sort of bias things you're gonna be bringing up that are either frivolous or have nothing to do with the Constitution.
So let me ask a better question, perhaps, Your Honor. Mr. Martin, are there any other facts that you would like to tell the jury related to the questions that you just answered for the prosecutor?
Can't think of any. I reserve my right if I remember it later. I can't think of any right now.
No problem. Just want to make sure that there wasn't anything we were leaving out. Your Honor, I have no further questions for Mr. Martin or any other direct at this time.
Sure. Mr. Greco, any further cross?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Hi, Mr. Martin, you may step down. And Mr. Martin, do you have any other witnesses to call?
Yes, like I said, I'd like to question Greco here. Yeah, he's one of my witnesses for one of some of the relevant defenses motions.
And you can't you can't call.
Right. Auditor, president, whatever.
You can't call opposing counsel as a witness. So.
But I think that is violating my due process.
It's not. It literally is not violating any of your due process whatsoever. So, do you have any other witnesses?
Oh, no. Defense rests our case.
Defense rests our case. Closing arguments. Mr. Greco?
Yes, Your Honor, very briefly, I'd like the jury to know just a second, whether he is a person or a human being. I believe that the evidence showed that Eric Martin was traveling on a motor vehicle, a moped, in the city of Taylor on the late afternoon of July 11th, 2023, without a valid driver's license. In fact, the record here that you're going to be able to inspect is one. People's Exhibit number 1 shows that it was revoked. It says revoked at the top. You see the sanctions here from prior years, 2021, 2022, which pre-exist and predate the 2023, that it was in fact revoked. Regardless of this, he has admitted to you during his testimony that he did not have a valid license. He's admitted to you that the state of Michigan requires that persons are supposed to have a valid driver's license to drive on the road. He don't think that applies to him. Once you hear the jury instructions, which he's already read to you, you're going to find the defendant guilty, and you should find the defendant guilty. There's no more case clearer than this. Thank you for your time. Do appreciate it.
And Mr. Martin, your closing argument?
Yes, I have a lot, so let's see. Start with. All right, and now she's showing this law to the jury here. So
First off, you're not going to show any law to the jury.
So I'm not allowed to show how I'm not
Listen,
guilty.
sir, listen. I'm going to tell you, because I've told you 5 times. When it comes to the jury, their duty is to hear the facts. And it's my duty to instruct them on what the law is. I have it right here. Sir, I teach constitutional law for 20 years. I know exactly what I'm talking about. So it is my duty to instruct them on what the law in this case is. And the law in this case is there are certain elements, 3 elements. 1, that the individual was traveling or operating a motor vehicle. 2, on a public road or access road. And 3, they didn't have a license at the time, or their license was either suspended, revoked, or denied. Those are the 3 elements. Those are the law that that's the law that I'm going to explain to them. Any other law that you are trying to show is not for the jury, not to hear from you, because you're not the one who has the duty to explain it to the jury. Okay? So if you think that you have a motion to dismiss, then this case would have already been dismissed. If your law that you wanted to point to was applicable, it would have already dismissed this case and we wouldn't even be in the jury trial. So if you want to make any sort of motions outside of the jury based on the law that you have in your hand, you're welcome to do so. I'll entertain said motion. But you're not going to be instructing the jury on this law here. Closing arguments is so that you can recap the facts and put your version of the facts on display at closing arguments. So if you'd like to do your closing argument, go ahead.
Well, this is part of my closing. So if I enter this as admission, my legal arguments as exhibits, then Then don't I have the right to show them the law that supports that I am not guilty?
Sir, you have to follow the rules of evidence just like any other litigant has to. And all I am required to do is make sure that you have every opportunity to put on a fair trial. You had the opportunity to be cross-examined. You had the opportunity to remain silent. You chose to testify. Your own co-counsel asked you a series of questions. He even asked you a very open-ended question. Is there any other fact that you want the jury to know about the date and time of the incident in particular? And you said, nope, nothing at this time. So you had every opportunity to show any other facts that you wanted to.
So I'm okay then if you're
Just
saying
this is the time. This is the time for your closing argument. This is where you recap the facts that were put into evidence. This is where you say things like, as the evidence showed, and then you say what your theory of the case is. This is not a legal argument. This is not a dissertation on legal philosophy. If you want to make that kind of motion, I'll do that outside of the presence of the jury so as to not taint the jury. You're literally tainting the jury right now just by attempting to do so. And if you continue, I'm gonna.
Maybe very briefly, Your Honor, I know we're to the end. This is going to change that. Your Honor, after having the opportunity to consult with Mr. Martin, explain to him what a motion for directed verdict would entail, Mr. Martin would like to address this court with a motion at this time.
I'm going to ask the jury to stand up. All rise. And ask the jury to follow Officer Rose into the hallway and have a seat in the benches out there so we can.
Do you think this show is educational? Yes, it'll drive people to read books.
And thanks for hanging out with us on Facts or Frauds. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button, you're subscribed, and ring that bell for notifications so the next time I premiere a video, you can be in a live chat with everyone else and leave a comment in the comment section. Tell me what you think. And a huge thank you to all of our Facts or Frauds channel members. And if you're still hanging out, thank you. I appreciate you all. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, you're subscribed, and leave a comment in the comment section. Tell me what you think. Until next time, I'll see you soon.